If you've glanced at my pinned tweet on my Twitter feed or seen my DLC predictions video, then you should know who my number one pick for Smash Ultimate is. I don't think it bears repeating. The Super Smash Bros. Series features characters from some of the most popular Japanese role-playing game series of all time, from Pokemon to Final Fantasy to Earthbound and recently Persona and Dragon Quest. But there's one other JRPG series that, while it's pretty popular in Japan, is mostly left high and dry. And that is Bandai-Namco's Tales of series. With over 2 decades worth of video games and other forms of media, the Tales of series has become one of Japan's most popular RPG series, behind Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. And while most of its mainline titles and a few spin-off titles have been released outside Japan, it's only reached a small audience of JRPG fans. So it's definitely in need of some more exposure in the West. And I feel having one of their own characters in Smash will give it the extra push that it needs. But sometimes I hear the argument that, but we have enough anime sword fighters in Smash, we don't need any more. Well, I ask of you, do we have an anime sword fighter in Smash that uses 2 swords? Okay, well, Pit and Dart Pit sword counts since their bows can split into dual swords, but that's beside the point. Now, I've been saying why I want to see Lloyd in Smash, but never how I want to see Lloyd in Smash. You know, the fighter's movesets, the stage, the music, the spirits, and what have you. Well, that's what the purpose of this video is, to speculate how Lloyd will appear if he were to appear in the fighter's path for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Be warned that this video will contain spoilers for Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World, so please watch at your own discretion. I know these games were over a decade old, but JRPG spoilers are still JRPG spoilers. Before we talk about Tales of Symphonia, let's rewind to 1995, where the first ever title in Namco's Tales of series was released on the Super Famicom. Tales of Fantasia was a game very much ahead of its time, featuring a unique real-time battle system and actual voice acting, including a fully vocalized theme song, all of which were unheard of in the Super Famicom game. The series would not see a release in America until 1998, with Tales of Destiny on the PlayStation, sometime after Final Fantasy VII had popularized the JRPG genre in the West. However, the series would become more known worldwide with Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube, which was the 3rd title to be released in America following Tales of Eternia.
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tales of Destiny 2! Not to be confused with the actual Tales of Destiny 2. I know it's confusing. And the first title was released in Europe. It became a breakout success for Namco, selling over 1.5 million copies worldwide and becoming the highest selling game in this series, which led to most of the series seeing releases outside of Japan. In the years since its release, it has established its own multimedia franchise in Japan, consisting of re-releases on PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and Steam, several manga series, including 1 adaptation, 2 novel series, several audio dramas, an anime adaptation, a sequel for the Wii called Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World, and a compilation of both games remastered in HD on PlayStation 3. It also laid the groundwork for the developments of Tales of the Abyss and Tales of Vesperia, both of which has seen the release on the Nintendo platform. And whether you liked it, hated it, or have a love-hate relationship with it like I do, its popularity did lead to the development of the sequel. While Tales of isn't as popular in the West as it is in Japan, Bandai Namco is definitely pushing the series out more, with Tales of Arise looking to appeal to Western audiences foremost, which is probably one of the reasons why it's also on Xbox One, since it's more successful outside Japan. And since Super Smash Bros. Leads to interest being engaged in series not well known to casual audiences, a Tales of character being in Smash will give it an even bigger push. As for Lloyd himself, he's made his presence known on the official series character polls, playable appearances in various Tales of spin-off games, as well as the Soul Calibur Legends, and having a downloadable Mii Sword Fighter costume based on him in Super Smash Bros. 4. It helps his case that he's got more worldwide recognition backing him in comparison to the overwhelming popularity of Yuri Lowell from Tales of Vesperia. Most Ultimate newcomers have some sort of unique mechanic to go along with their special moveset, so I figured it'd be necessary to come up with one for Lloyd. After all, if he's going to be a DLC character in Smash, he needs to be broken and overpowered as fuck. For Lloyd's unique mechanic, he'll utilize Tales of versions of Magic Maker, the technical points gauge. By using TP, Lloyd can enhance his specials from base art to arcane art by pressing the special button during the attack animation. TP will recover over time, but will recover much faster by landing normal and tilt attacks. TP will also recover by eating food items, in reference to the series' cooking mechanic. Now for his specials. For his neutral special, he'll use Demon Fang, which will release a shockwave across the ground. Press the special button again to release a second Demon Fang. For his side special, he'll use Sword Rain, which will attack the opponent with multiple sword jabs. Press the special button again to add a jumping upward slash. For his down special, he'll use Beast. Lloyd will slam his shoulder into the opponent and release energy in the form of a lion's head, which will knock them back. Press the special button after the first hit to add a spiral slash. For his up special, that will be Tempest. Lloyd will spin in a circular arc, slashing any opponents in the way. Press the special button again to continue the attack by spinning upwards. This will cause helplessness. And for his final smash, Lloyd will use his mystic art, Falcon's Crest. Lloyd will merge his material blades together into the Eternal Sword, and anyone near him will be caught in the attack. The attack will deal damage on the ground at first, launch opponents upwards, then sends opponents flying downwards. This attack will also damage nearby opponents when it hits the ground. After some of his other arts, I was thinking Sonic Thrust for his side smash, Fierce Demon Fang for his down smash, Tiger Blade for either his up smash or neutral aerial, and Rising Falcon for his forward aerial. For alternate color changes, I decided upon alternate colors based on the main protagonists of Tales of Symphonia. Well, except for Kratos because there's only room for 8 colors. Color number 2 will be based on Colette. Color number 3 will be based on Genis. Color number 4 will be based on Rain. Color number 5 will be based on Sheena. Color number 6 will be based on Zelos. Color number 7 will be based on Presea. And color number 8 will be based on Regal. While Super Smash Flash 2 uses the Tower of Salvation as Lloyd's home stage, I decided upon something different and chose to have a stage that revolves around the giant Carlon tree, which is central to the world that Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World, and Tales of Fantasia are set in, as it is the source of all mana in the world. Although the giant Carlon tree is actually what the first world tree is referred to, I'm using that as a broad term, since the second world tree that appears at the end of Symphonia up to Fantasia is actually named Yggdrasil, named after the main antagonist of Tales of Symphonia. I mean, the Tower of Salvation does seem like a good place to make a stage around, but it only really appears in Symphonia, and at the end of that game, the new world tree starts growing where it used to be. It feels a bit more fitting to have a stage with the very thing that binds the world together. I made a rough mock-up of the stage using Stage Builder, which you can try out for yourself. It's not the best looking stage, like I'm not very good at drawing, but it should give you an idea of how it will play out. Anyway, what's the stage without a selection of music to play along with? One extra thing we are getting alongside each new DLC fighter pack is a new set of spirits that correspond to the game where that character came from, as well as their own exclusive spirit board. So I figured that the spirit set that should accompany Lloyd will consist of the other main characters of Tales of Symphonia. The spirit battles are as follows. Colette Brunel will be represented by Jigglypuff. Colette and Jigglypuff are characters that at first glance don't seem viable at all, but can yield devastating results when used correctly. You constantly take minor damage references Colette's hidden art Toss Hammer, which is activated at random by using Pow Hammer after used over 200 times. When it connects, it inflicts poison on the enemy. This also works on boss enemies. The enemy will suddenly have a final smash after a little while references Colette's mystic art Holy Judgment, which is activated at random by using Holy Song after using both that and Judgment over 200 times. You all thought that Hero was an RNG character? Try looking up a Colette solo against a Vision. Next up, we have Genius Sage, portrayed by the male Robin. Genius and Robin are both white-haired tactical geniuses that specialize in elemental magic. With that in mind, the conditions for his spirit battle will be that the enemy favors special attacks and the enemy's magic attacks have increased power. By the way, did you all know that Genius is called Genius in Japan? That's nothing to do with anything here. I just felt like I needed to point that out. Next, we have Kratos Ariam, portrayed by Roy. Kratos and Roy are both red-headed sword fighters whose signature swords has a fire element to it. But this one is just no weird spirit gimmicks here, just a simple one-on-one battle, just like how the battle between Kratos and Lloyd around the end of the game plays out. Moving right along, we have Rain Sage, portrayed by Zelda, who are both white mages. While a few characters uses healing arts, Rain is the only party member whose primary focus is on healing arts. With that in mind, the first condition will be that the enemy heals over time. The enemy is easily distracted by items references a running gag in the game, where her fascination with ancient ruins and artifacts gets her really overexcited, and no one knows how to swim is a reference to Rain's hydrophobia. Moving right along, we have Shina Fujibayashi, portrayed by Sheik because they're ninjas. Anyway, Shina possesses summoning arts, allowing her to make pacts with summon spirits and call upon their powers. With that in mind, her spirit battle will use assist trophies. The hostile assist trophy that will appear will be Crystal, who will represent Celsius, the summon spirit of ice. The enemy ally is a tiny fox who will represent the artificial summon spirit Corinne. However, you're only required to defeat Sheik to win the battle. By the way, I wonder if Nintendo would, cover, those up, You can't have those hanging out, Kids are playing this game. Next up, we have Zelos Valor, portrayed by Crom. The reason why I picked Crom to represent Zelos is because of this. Crom is Roy's Echo Fighter. In that sense, Zelos will be Kratos' Echo Fighter. They're both the Magic Knight party member that uses both Strike and Magic arts, and they share all but one or two arts. To the point that Kratos becomes unusable past the first third of the game, and is replaced by Zelos for the rest of the game. And save for one particular instance, you can never have both characters in the same party. Anyway, Zelos' spirit battle conditions will be fitting for a sword fighter. The enemy's melee weapons will have increased power, and the enemy loves to taunt is a reference to Zelos' Soulburn. Next up, we have Presea Combatir, portrayed by female villagers. They're both cute little pink hair girls. Anyway, villagers down special is the only way to use the axe, and axes and a few occasional hammers are Presea's weapon of choice. This also references her profession as a lumberjack before joining the party. With that in mind, the enemy will favor down specials. The enemy will occasionally have super armor after a little while is a reference to Overlimit, a usual Tales of battle mechanic where after dealing and taking damage, a player character or a boss enemy will enter a state where they will be immune to stagger and can perform arts without using TP or being interrupted. In some cases, Overlimit will also enable the use of mystic arts. The enemy will suddenly have a final smash for the enemies at high damage, references how both of Presea's mystic arts require her to be at low HP, among other ridiculous requirements. If you look up Crimson Devastation, you'll see that the requirements to activate it are crazy, but it pays off because it's basically the strongest attack you can pull off in the game, able to kill off any boss enemy if not tear their HP in half. Last but not least, we have Rhea O'Brien, portrayed by Captain Falcon. Rigo specializes in kicking attacks because he was forced to mercy kill his lover, who was also Presea's younger sister. Yes, I said younger sister. You see, Presea is actually much older than she looks. She looks like 12, but she's really 28, okay? Alright? I don't, it's kind of weird, okay? Just go with it, alright? After that, he vowed to never fight using his hands again, and all of his offensive arsenals involve kicking. Likewise, a good amount of Captain Falcon's stats are kicks. With that in mind, the enemy's kicks and knee strikes will have increased power. The enemy becomes more powerful after eating as a reference to Tales of cooking mechanic, where after battle, a character can cook recipes to recover HP and TP, or boost stats for next battle. And Rigo is the best character in Master Recipes with in Symphonia. Lloyd's classic mode route will be titled Journey of World Regeneration, named after the pilgrimage that the Chosen One go along to restore the world of Silverant with mana. As the story goes on, the protagonist learns of a parallel world called Tetheala, which not only shares the same pool of mana with Silveron, but both worlds are actively fighting each other for control of that mana. So the goal eventually becomes merging the two worlds together and linking them with the world tree, so that there is enough mana to sustain the world and all living beings. Sounds like a usual JRPG plot, right? With that in mind, the opponents Lloyd will face off against will be the heroes from various JRPG series. The rule set is as follows. There will be a stamina/team battle. The player and the CPU allies will have 150 HP each, and the enemy will have 500 HP, and the stage will be set on the giant Carlon tree. Round 1 will be against Cloud from the Final Fantasy series. Lloyd's CPU allies will be Jigglypuff, Robin, and Roy. Round 2 will be against Hero from the Dragon Quest series. Lloyd's CPU allies will be Jigglypuff, Robin, and Zelda. Round 3 will be against Joker from the Persona series and by extension Megami Tensei. Lloyd's CPU allies will be Robin, Zelda, and Sheik. Stage 4 will be against Ness and Lucas from the Earthbound series. This round is a reference to a recurring staple in the Tales of series, where the player will usually end up in a boss fight where they're fighting two bosses at once. And CPU allies for Lloyd will be Sheik, Prom, and Female Villager. Round 5 will be against Shulk from the Xenoblade series. CPU allies for Lloyd will include Prom, Villager, and Captain Falcon. Next will be the bonus round. And stage 6 will be against Roy from the Fire Emblem series. This will be the only round where there's a one-on-one battle, as it references another recurring staple in the Tales of series, where the player will fight the boss as a single character. Since it's going to be a one-on-one battle, the enemy's stamina will be 250 HP instead of 500. For the final round, it will be versus Master Hand. The CPU allies will be Jigglypuff, Sheik, and Chrom. And the stage will be set on Final Destination, and the music will be Final Destination. I'm sorry. The stage will be Final Destination, and the music will be Final Destination. The Tales of Symphonia version, not Smash Brothers. I just find that really funny that they both share the same track called Final Destination. With every major update to Smash Ultimate, we're getting a new wave of downloadable Mii Fighter costumes. Aside from Lloyd, the Bandai-Namco Mii costumes that can potentially return from Smash 4 will be Heihachi Mishima from Tekken and Gilgamesh from the Tower of Julaga. Now they probably won't have Lloyd as both a fighter and a Mii costume because that would be redundant, but let's say this. The Heihachi and Gil costumes will return, but in place of the Lloyd costume, we get new Mii costumes of protagonists from other Tales of games. I have two ideas in mind. Crest Salme from Tales of Fantasia, the hero of the game that started the entire Tales of series, and Yuri Lowell from Tales of Vesperia, the most popular character in the entire series. How popular is Yuri? Well, he was banned from official series character polls for being too popular. That's how popular he is. Whew, wow. I've been working on this since January this year, and I'm glad to see it all finally come together. I'll be honest with you all, the Tales of series may very well be one of my favorite JRPG series. Before I ever blind bought Tales of Symphonia at Best Buy in November of 2005, the only RPG series I've ever played extensively was Pokemon. I wasn't into Final Fantasy like everyone else was, and still isn't. I wasn't even aware of how much of an impact Final Fantasy VII had made at the time. Like most of his fanbase, Symphonia was my entry point into the Tales of series, and for me it was my entry point to JRPGs as a whole. And since 2006, at that time I played through Symphonia 3 times, I wanted to pick up any Tales of game that I could get my hands on. I almost ended up buying a Game Boy Advance port of Tales of Fantasia day one, but couldn't because of a family vacation on that same week. Dodged the bullet there. I haven't really played a Tales of game since Dawn of the New World. Heck, I bought Tales of the Abyss for the 3DS and forgot I owned it since recently. Don't ask me how I forgot I owned it, okay? It just happened, okay? But recently, I found myself getting back into the series for Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition on Nintendo Switch and Tales of Berseria on the PlayStation 4, and I've been enjoying those games. And even though I was skeptical about Tales of Arise at first, I'm actually excited for that and pre-ordered it as soon as I could. And one of my most wanted titles to see ported to Nintendo Switch is Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, or just the first game at the very least. Heck, if Lloyd actually does end up in Smash Ultimate, Nintendo and Bandai-Namco might as well coincide those two announcements together to build some hype. Nothing would thrill me more greatly than to see Tales of representing the Smash, and as far as I'm concerned, unless his Mii Fighter costume is confirmed to return, Lloyd is still in the running for Smash Ultimate. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.